Fortnum Mason is one of London's most iconic spots for afternoon tea. The tea parlour is tucked inside their beautiful Piccadilly store, complete with live piano music, elegant table settings, and pages of teas to choose from. On the surface, it looks like the quintessential luxury experience. You've got the tea, the delicate stand of sandwiches and patisseries, and of course, their famous preserves. But here is the question. Is it really worth £82 per person? Because while the setting is stunning, when it comes to the actual food, I couldn't help but feel a little bit underwhelmed. So let's get into it. Hello guys, and welcome back for another afternoon tea review. Now I am on a very busy road because I am heading down towards Green Park from Piccadilly Circus, and that is because today we are going for afternoon tea at Fortnum and Mason. I have never been for afternoon tea at this shop, but it has been on my bucket list to do for so long. I thought, why not let's just tick it off at the end of summer. So I'm very excited to experience this. As you probably know, if you've watched a few of my videos, I went to the Fortnum and Mason Afternoon Tea at the Royal Exchange in the city. That one is about half the price of this one. So I am expecting higher levels of luxury, higher levels of variety, elevation, if you will, for this increased price point. Let's see if it is actually worth the additional spend that we are going to do today. And of course, as always, I will give you a very honest and candid review, and I will let you know whether it is worth splurging your money on this afternoon tea. So we are just heading down Piccadilly. I am loving the fact that we are in late summer now. I cannot wait for it to get all autumnal in London. It's one of my favourite times in the city. Oh, I just love it when it gets a little bit colder and I can sit in the coffee shops and just read my books and have a nice cosy time. But for now, I'm enjoying the warm sunny weather. It's a nice sunny day in London and we are nearly at Fortnum & Mason. It is just ahead of us. So I will show you what it's like in there. I'll show you where the tea room is. It's called the Diamond Jubilee Tea Room. So I will show you all of that when we get in there. And of course, when we get into the afternoon tea, I will give you a full-on review. Okay, here we are. We are in the most dangerous area for me in Fortnum & Mason, which is the tea section. They have the best teas. That's a mint toffee tea. What else do we have here? We have a cocoa mint. That also sounds incredible. And there's a pina colada tea for the summer, which looks amazing as well. But I cannot buy anything in here, okay? I need to really, really resist the urge. Okay, I'm actually just gonna keep showing you a bit of the interior here because it is so stunning. So you've got some like Turkish delight bits here, which look delicious. I love the way the counters look. I think they're just so gorgeously put together. And then you've got like all of these as well. Look how stunning this all looks. Honestly, I would buy so many of these things. These are all marzipan, by the way. They're just beautiful. Okay, we are heading all the way up to the 4th floor for the Diamond Jubilee Tea Salon. I'm gonna get in the lift. I'm gonna try to get in the lift. Let me press the button. Just because oh, here we go. Got a lift here. Okay, here we go, getting in the lift. Okay, 4th floor. Here we go. So I've just sat down for my afternoon tea and it is beautiful in here. It's such a beautiful room. So this space, this room has actually existed for about 300 years within Fortnum & Mason. It actually used to be the private residence of the owners of Fortnum & Mason, I believe, and it's been converted lots of different times over the years since then. Most recently, in 2012, it was converted into the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Tea Parlour, which is how it looks now. And there's lots of beautiful floral arrangements in here. The colour scheme is very much on brand for Fortnum & Mason. I'll show you the plate here. For example, like this, it's got that signature kind of mint green colour to it, or it's kind of like a minty bluey green colour, which is really beautiful. And all of the crockery is Fortnum Mason. So the plate, as I just showed you, really beautiful. And then you've got a teacup that's not exactly matching, but definitely has the same sort of colour scheme. And that is really beautiful with the floral pattern on it as well. And then the sugar, I'll just show you as well, the container for that. This does actually match the teacup, which again is really beautifully presented and just such a lovely touch with something like this. I think it just makes it feel all the more special when you have the matching crockery. And in terms of menu, you have the tea salon menu here, which I'll insert some clips of. It's got some gold foil on it as well, which I think again makes it feel a bit more premium. And you've got a wide selection for your afternoon teas. So you can do a classic afternoon tea here for £82 per person. I know it is on the pricier side, but let's see if it lives up to that. A similar price point to Sketch, which I did last week. And with that, you get the finger sandwiches, the scones and the patisseries. And then they have a high tea option where you can choose a savoury dish. They've got things like Welsh rarebit, beef fillet, all sorts of stuff like that. You get the scones and then the patisseries as well. So if you wanted more of a robust savoury dish and then some elements of afternoon tea, I think the high tea would be best for you. That is £84 per person. They also actually do a savoury afternoon tea. So this is entirely savoury items. So you've got the finger sandwiches, then savoury scones and savoury patisseries. That is £86 per person. And then they've got veggie and gluten-free options for the afternoon tea as well. In terms of drinks, they've got loads of different cocktails. They've got champagne cocktails, spritzers. They've got champagne available, of course. You've got some additional hot beverages and iced teas that you can order. I believe those are all at an additional charge. That is everything in this menu. And then we move on to the tea menu, which is completely separate from the regular menu because they have so many teas. So the tea salon tea list, you've got their famous blends, the black teas, the green teas and the infusions, and there's lots of variety in here. I'm not going to show you everything because this section of the video would just be way too long if I went through every single tea that they do, but you get an extensive selection to choose from, which I think with the higher price point makes it more worth that higher price point because you're getting so much choice. I actually went for the pomegranate and rose tea for my afternoon tea just because I haven't really tried a blend like that before. So I'm excited to see what I think. I've got some sparkling water here as well, which they just gave to me just because it is quite a hot day still. So I just want something to hydrate me while I wait for the afternoon tea to arrive. But so far so good. They've got a pianist playing, but it's not actually in the same room that I'm in. The pianist is actually out in the hallway and the sound travels through into the two tea parlour rooms, which I think is really nice because then it's not too overwhelming or loud. You can still have a conversation without it interrupting or having to speak too loudly. And it's nice having a little bit of live piano music going on in the background. So that's everything so far. My clotted cream and my jams have actually just arrived and they said that my food is on its way as well, which is very exciting. So far so good in terms of the service. It's been pretty fast. So let me just show you what has arrived. So we've got the clotted cream at the top here in this silver pot. They give you quite a lot of that actually, which is great. And then you've got your jams down here. So you get your own individual pot of the strawberry preserve. So this is the Fortnum Mason branding. I think it's quite nice that they're their own individual little pots. And then you've also got an orange option down here. Let me see if I don't know if I can take this out actually, it's a bit stuck. Give me 1 second. I had to remove the plates to get that out, but you get an orange curd as well. So I like that they give you these two jam options and you can choose between them and they're in their own Fortnum Mason branded pots, which I think is a nice touch. So my tea has now arrived. It comes in a teapot that actually matches the teacup, which again, I love details like that. I feel like it makes the experience feel so much more special. So I'm going to pour this into my teacup and I will let you guys know what I think once it's ready. This tea is such a beautiful, vibrant pink colour. I cannot wait to try it. It smells really good as well. It smells very fruity, so if you like a fruity tea, I think you'll really like this one. But let's taste it and see if it tastes as good as it smells. That's a really, really delicious tea. I would say the pomegranate and the rose really perfectly balance with each other. The rose isn't too overwhelming. Sometimes I find roses in teas can be a bit overly floral and it can overtake the tea, but with this, it balances really nicely with the fruity flavour. and they evenly match each other, which I really, really like. So this is going to be the perfect accompaniment for my afternoon tea, which has actually just arrived with me. So let me show you what is on the tea stand because it looks amazing. So starting at the bottom, we've got our 5 sandwiches. You've got a coronation chicken. I think it's a ham sandwich there as well, an egg mayonnaise, a cucumber and cream cheese, and then a smoked trout sandwich. So very similar to the ones we had at Royal Exchange, but I think these ones are bigger. And then moving on to the scones here, you've got a plain and a raisin scone, very standard, very traditional. And then at the top, you have the patisseries. Now these look absolutely sensational. There is some overlap with the Royal Exchange. So the loaf at the back here, we had something similar at the Royal Exchange, but it was a smaller size. And the Rose Eclair, I believe, was actually the exact same size as the one at the Royal Exchange. And then the 3 across the middle are where you've got the difference between the tea service here and the Royal Exchange, because these are far more premium than what you got at the Royal Exchange, which I would expect because this is a much higher price point, and they all look delicious, so I cannot wait to get stuck into them. So it is time to get stuck in to the full afternoon tea service. I'm going to start with the sandwiches, which I've got here on this plate. As I mentioned, you get 5 of those, which I think is very generous. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish all of these on my own, and if I don't, I will try to take what I don't finish back home to Alex so he can have some as well. But let's go from right to left with this. I feel like they normally recommend you go left to right with the sandwiches and with the sweet treats. They normally recommend an order. They didn't actually recommend an order with these, so I'm just going to go right to left. And I'm going to start with the coronation chicken sandwich, which is on a brown bread and looks like that. It looks really, really tasty, so I'm hoping it's going to taste as good as it looks. That is a nice coronation chicken sandwich. I will say my favourite still to this day was the one that we had at the Jumeirah. That coronation chicken sandwich was just incredible, but I would not expect anything less from them. The chicken in that is a little bit dry. It's a little bit drier than I'd like it to be. It's still a nice sandwich. Next, let's move on to the cured ham and English mustard sandwich, which is on a white bread that looks like this. Let's try this and see what we think. One was okay. The only thing I'll say is, I'll just show you again, I wish there was just a bit more filling in that. I feel like it just needs a bit more in there to really make it good. Third, we have the egg mayonnaise sandwich, and this is on I believe a sesame seed bread looking at it. This is very nicely filled, so let's see what we think of this one. It's a nice egg mayonnaise sandwich, very typical, very standard. I'm not unimpressed by it, it's just nothing amazing. I feel like with the afternoon teas that we've been to, where they add truffle to the egg mayonnaise sandwiches, I feel like that really elevates it and makes it feel a little bit more special, because sandwiches on their own can feel a little bit plain, and I feel like that's what this needs. It needs some kind of unique elements in the sandwiches just to bring it up a level to justify that £82 price point. Okay, so fourth, we have the cucumber sandwich on a white bread, and that is what it looks like. Again, I feel like there's not enough filling in this. It feels a little bit stingy, dare I say. So let me try it and let you guys know what I think. I'm not typically a fan of cucumber sandwiches, but there's really not even that much cucumber in there. It's basically just bread. So far, I'm not that impressed with the sandwiches, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Finally, we have the smoked trout sandwich, which is looking, I'm not going to lie, it's looking a little bit sad. It's a bit squished, but let's try it and see what we think. I do like the smoked trout. I feel like doing that versus smoked salmon is actually quite a nice change. I really like the flavour of it. I actually think it's got a good amount of trout in there. I just think presentation-wise and looking at them as a whole, the fillings are a little bit lacking with a lot of them. And when you're paying £82 per person, which is a lot of money, it's double the price point of the Royal Exchange afternoon tea we did. And yes, with that, you do get less food. The setting is not as relaxing as this. It's not as premium. But when I'm paying double, I do kind of expect it to be significantly better than the cheaper version. And so far with the savoury stuff, I would say you're probably better going to the Royal Exchange. Okay, I've finished with the sandwiches. I ate most of them. I just left the cucumber one because, as we know, not my favourite. And they were okay. Like I mentioned, I just think for the £82 price point, they're nothing that special compared to other afternoon teas I've done where the price is at like £60 or £70 per person. So So far, I'm not gonna lie, although the setting is really lovely, the piano music is lovely, the visuals of the afternoon tea are beautiful as well. I just think the flavours are a little bit lacking. But let's move on to the scones. So we've got our 2 scones here. We've got the sultana scone and then the plain scone on the right. I am gonna crack into these and I'll let you guys know what I think. So let's start with the plain scone. I will say these are not warm, they are served pretty cold, so that's just something to bear in mind. Again, there's been other afternoon teas that we've been to where they serve the scones warm, and I really do think that again makes a big difference. But here's the 2 halves of the plain scone, that's what they look like. Let's now put the clotted cream and the jam on these and see what we think. For the plain scone, I'm going to go in with, I think, the strawberry jam, and then for the sultana scone, I'll try the orange curd that we got as well, just so I try both of them and I can let you guys know exactly what I think. So I'm just putting the clotted cream on this half. It spreads really nicely as well, which is great, and they give you, as I mentioned, loads of clotted cream, so you are definitely not going to run out. And then let's put the strawberry jam on top as well. This is a really nice smooth strawberry jam, which is really easy to spread on top as well. So here's what the scone looks like with everything loaded on top. Looks really good, but let's see if it tastes as good as it looks. That is really lovely. I will say, although the scones are not warm, they are delicious, so I give them points for that. I just wish they served them a little bit warmer. So now I'm going to go into the sultana scone, which looks like this. I'll twist this one apart as well. There's the 2 halves of that. So I'm going to put the clotted cream and the orange curd on this one, just to switch up a bit and to try both options that they give you. I don't think I've ever had an orange curd before. I've had lemon curd. We've had lemon curd actually a few times at afternoon teas, and I feel like it's a nice alternative to the strawberry jam. But let's see what we think of this. It's not a marmalade, so it's not got those thick pieces of orange in there. It's just a smooth paste. So this is what the scone looks like loaded up with the orange curd. Let's see what we think. I actually really like that. I like it more than I thought I would, and it's a really nice alternative to the strawberry jam. I mean, I love Jaffa cakes and things like that, so I'm not surprised that I like the orange curd. And I think it goes really nicely with the sultana scone. But I'm going to finish up with these scones now, and then once I've finished with those, I will move on to the patisseries and we can review those one by one as well. They look incredible, so I'm hoping they taste as good as they look. So I've just finished with the scones. They were really good and I am starting to get full. So I feel like most of the patisseries I am going to try and take home with me. There's no way I'm finishing everything that's on my plate, but I thought I would show you how much of the cream and the jam I've used for the scones, just to give you an idea. So this is what I've got left of my cream. Now, I believe if you came and there were 2 of you, they'd probably give you the same amount. So I feel like that's a good amount, and that will last the both of you really well. In terms of the jams, this is how much of the strawberry jam that I've used, and then this is how much of the orange curd that I used. Excuse me for showing you my slightly messy curd and jam, but I just thought it's worth showing you how much I've used of each. And I'm actually going to take these home with me because I believe you can. I think they give everyone a fresh one for their afternoon tea. So seeing as mine I've kind of barely touched and they're in such cute little pots, why not take them home as a souvenir? And you know what? Things like this are what I think make it worth a slightly higher price point. If they're giving you something like that you can take away, it's quite a nice touch. And I just think these are going to look so cute sat in my kitchen. So I'm very chuffed about that. But now it is time for the patisseries. Now these just look absolutely sensational. I will hold the plate up and try and pray that none of these fall off the plate while I'm showing them to you. But they all look incredible. I'll also insert some clips of them on the plate just top down so you can properly see them as well. You actually get 5 patisserie items, which is very generous, I think. Most places normally do 4, and sizing wise they are slightly on the smaller side, but do you know what? I'd rather have 5 mini patisserie items so I can try lots of different flavors than 4 slightly bigger ones, especially if there's a flavor in there that you're not particularly a fan of. Then it's it's nicer to have the variety, I think. So I'm going to try a bit of each of these. Like I said, there's no way I'm going to finish them all, but if there's any that I particularly like, I'll let you know, and those are probably the ones that I'll finish right here, right now, and then the rest of them I will take home to Alex. So let's start with the Rose Eclair. Now, we had exactly this at the afternoon tea at the Royal Exchange. It's the same as the one that I had there. I'm going to cut into it just so I can get a bit to try, and I'll let you guys know what I think and if it tastes exactly the same, which I am expecting it to. It is exactly the same as the Rose Eclair at the afternoon tea at the Royal Exchange. I really like it. I like rose flavours, so for me it works really well. But if you don't like rose flavours, it is very strong in that. If you love Turkish Delight, you'll like that, but just be wary that it is a very strong floral flavour within that. So if that's not for you, maybe give that one a skip. Next, we have a blueberry and lavender tart. Now, this looks incredible. I love all the blueberries piled up on top there. I think it just looks so pretty, but let me try and cut into this and get a little bit on my fork to try, because I feel like this is a bit of a messy one, but I'm going to try and get a bit of everything on my fork. Okay, let's try this one and see what we think. The fresh blueberries are really nice in that. I don't really taste any lavender in the mousse, which I think is probably a good thing, because lavender can be quite an overpowering flavour as well. We had it in one of the patisseries at the Jumeirah, and I actually really liked it paired, I think it was with the chocolate, if I'm not wrong. But here with this, with the blueberries, it's quite nice and subtle, and I think they balance each other really nicely. So, do you know what? I'm not mad at that. I quite like it. Third, we have the raspberry loaf, which looks like this. And again, I feel like we had something very similar at the afternoon tea at the Royal Exchange. So it's interesting to see what crossovers they have versus what is unique to this afternoon tea and that one. So I'm going to try some of this, and again, I'll let you guys know what I think. Okay, what I will say is it is quite a dense loaf cake. The flavour of the raspberry is in there and it does cut through a little bit, but personally, this is the type of dense loaf cake that I don't like to see in an afternoon tea, because it's so heavy and you're going to get to it at the end of the service when really you don't want anything that feels too heavy or overpowering. So it's a nice flavour, but it's not my favourite thing. Okay, now we are moving on to the showstoppers of this part of the afternoon tea, and this is, I believe, a strawberry and lime mousse. Now look how gorgeous that looks. It looks almost too good to eat. I'm sad that I'm having to cut into this, but I'm going to do it and I'll let you guys know what I think. I'm hoping that these bits are going to be a little bit better than the rest. Okay, I've got some on my fork, so let me try it and I'll let you guys know what I think. That is a nice mousse, but it's definitely more of a strawberry flavour. I didn't really get much lime in there, and I feel like I need a little bit of that sharp flavour with the strawberry just to give it a bit of dimension, because overall the flavour profile of all of this is quite subtle and gentle, and I do like to have a little bit of variety in there. I don't like anything to taste too similar. Okay, and finally we have this apricot and elderflower dessert, which is making my hands shake to hold up because the base of it is not very sturdy and I'm worried about it falling on the table. But let me cut into this now and let you guys know what I think. I think this is beautifully presented, as the strawberry mousse was as well. And again, I feel like it's that sort of presentation that makes it feel a little bit more special compared to the afternoon tea at the Royal Exchange, which is half the price of this. But let's try this and see what we think. I think it's okay. It's nice. I would say, like, all of this stuff is very, very nice, but it's nothing that feels special or unique or elevated. That's what I really feel like I'm missing here for the £82 price point. I would just expect something a little bit more dynamic and exciting. And that's not to say that afternoon teas can't be fully traditional and worth the higher price point. They can, but I just expect then to see more depth and complexity to the flavours that are explored in it. And I feel like we've not quite got there with this. I feel like this should be priced at the £60 to £70 mark to make it feel more aligned with what you're getting. Okay, so let me give you my final thoughts on this afternoon tea. Is it worth the £82 price point per person? My personal feeling is I think there's others out there on the market, especially in London, that are just better priced, or where you get a lot more for your money at the £80+ price point. That's not to say that the afternoon tea here hasn't been lovely. It has, But there are just some things that I'm going to point out to you guys that I think make it not worth that higher price point. Before I dive into the cons, let's talk about the pros. Let's talk about the things I did like. So firstly, the setting. This room is beautiful. It's a lovely tea parlour. It's very classic. So if you are a tourist visiting London, I feel like you will enjoy how classic and timeless it feels in here. The piano music is also a really lovely touch that just adds to the atmosphere, and the way everything is presented is beautiful. Like, it's very visually pleasing, very aesthetically pleasing. So if you're here to take your Instagram pictures or your TikTok videos, you will be very happy and you will get the content that you want to get. However, onto the cons. I would say I just don't think the food is elevated enough for the higher price point, and I feel like the reason it's priced at this level is because of how popular it is. You're in Fortnum Mason. It's a very popular department store to come to for tourists in London, and therefore you're paying that elevated price point just to sit in this room. But I feel like to really justify it, they just need to make some tweaks to some of the food items just to make it feel a bit more special. For example, when I was at Sketch, the artistry that they put into those sandwiches and the patisseries was truly amazing. And I feel like that did make it feel like it was more worth the higher price point. Whereas here, some of it just doesn't feel that elevated. And the other thing I'll say is the service has been good, it's been great, but I haven't had as much time with the serving staff as I had at Sketch and at other places where they were checking in on me, where I was able to order multiple teas, have more of an elevated experience. For example, at the Jumeirah, I feel like that was priced around the £80 price point as well. But I had a palate cleanser at the beginning of the service, then the sandwiches, then I had an amuse-bouche before I moved into the sweet items, then we had a selection of scones to try. So I just feel like at these higher price points, I would hope and expect just for something that feels a bit more elevated and a bit more thought through in the service and your journey through it. The tea that I've had has been really nice. This is the pomegranate and rose tea, which I've really enjoyed, but it is a tea bag tea. Now they do some loose leaf teas here, but the one that I had is a tea bag one. So that's also something to keep in mind as well, because I do think the loose leaf teas does again make something feel a bit more premium when it comes to an afternoon tea. So overall, do I think it's worth your money? I'm gonna say no. I think this has actually been our most disappointing higher price point afternoon tea, which is such a shame because visually it looks like it should be like the best one that we've tried, but when you actually get into it and you start tasting everything and going through the experience, it just doesn't match up. And I've actually only been here for about 45 to 50 minutes and I've done the whole afternoon tea service. I've been to other places like Roast, like Jumeirah, like Sketch, where the way that they do the service and the attention that they pay to you and the way that they pull you through it means that you are there for the full hour and a half, if not actually a little bit longer. And therefore you really feel like you're getting your money's worth in terms of time spent doing the experience. Whereas here, I just feel like it's just missing some elements that would really pull it up to that higher price point. So let's have a look at where this places Fortnum and Mason in our top 5. Not a surprise that it is nowhere near the top. I would recommend going to Jumeirah or Groves in the House over this one anytime. The service is so much better. So those are my thoughts on this afternoon tea. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and you found it interesting. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and I will see you in my next video.